Flash Boys, A Wall Street Revolt by Michael Lewis. Introduction. Imagine this for a moment. 2,000 men are spread out across the American heartland. They're working in small, isolated crews, digging a trench. A long, thin, impossibly straight trench that stretches for 827 miles, from the south side of Chicago to the northern edge of New Jersey. When the locals ask what they're doing, the workers are given a simple script: just laying fiber. If anyone asks more questions, who it's for, what it does, they're told to report it to the head office immediately. Because this project is a secret. A very, very expensive secret, costing over $300 million. These crews are blasting through mountains, tunneling under rivers, and cutting through private farmland. Not to bring internet to rural towns or connect cities together. No, this line has only one purpose, a purpose so strange that even the men digging it can't figure it out. It needs to be the straightest path ever dug into the earth. Why? Why would someone spend a fortune to shave a few feet off a cable line running between Illinois and New Jersey? The answer isn't just about money. It's about a fundamental shift in the nature of reality itself. It's about a world where a few milliseconds, less time than it takes for you to blink, can be worth billions of dollars. This story, which sounds like something from a spy novel, is the real-life opening scene of one of the most important financial books of our time, Flash Boys, A Wall Street Revolt by the master storyteller, Michael Lewis. You might know him from his other blockbusters, like The Big Short or Moneyball. He has this incredible gift for taking the most complex subjects and turning them into thrilling human dramas. And with Flash Boys, he did it again, selling millions of copies and sparking a firestorm of debate that reached all the way to the U.S. Senate. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the world he uncovered. A world you've probably heard of, but never truly seen. We're going to find out how the stock market, the very engine of our economy, became rigged. But more than that, we're going to tell the story of a small group of unlikely heroes who stumbled upon this secret and decided they had to do something about it. By the end of our time together, you won't just understand the hidden game being played with nearly everyone's money. You'll also see what it truly takes to challenge a broken system, and you might just find a little bit of their courage inside yourself. This isn't just a story about numbers and computers. It's a story about right and wrong, and the choice between the easy path and the one that matters. Book summary. Our story really begins not in a trench in Pennsylvania, but in a gleaming office tower in New York City, with a man named Brad Katsuyama. Brad wasn't your typical Wall Street trader. For one, he was Canadian, which on Wall Street is a bit like being from another planet. He worked for the Royal Bank of Canada, or RBC, a solid, steady bank that nobody in New York took very seriously. Brad was what they called RBC nice. He was calm, analytical, and believed in fairness. He was a team player, the kind of guy who reminded people more of a locker room captain than a high-flying trader. And he was very, very good at his job. By the late 2000s, he was running a major trading desk, handling huge orders for some of the biggest investors in the world. His life was built on a simple trust, that the system he worked in was, for the most part, fair. He trusted the numbers on his screen. If his screen showed 10,000 shares of Intel for sale at $22, he believed he could buy them for $22. Then, one day in 2007, the numbers started to lie. Brad would see an offer, push the button to buy, and in the fraction of a second it took for his order to travel, the offer would vanish. Poof! Gone. The price would tick higher, and he'd either miss the trade or have to pay more for it. At first, he thought it was a glitch. A problem with his own computers. He called his tech support guys. They did what tech support guys always do. They told him it was user error. Basically, they told him he didn't know how to use his own keyboard. But Brad knew that wasn't it. This was happening too often, too consistently. He started running little experiments. He'd gather his tech team behind his desk. "Watch this," he'd say. He'd point to a stock on his screen. "There are 100,000 shares for sale at $48. I'm going to count to 5, and then I'm going to press the buy button." He'd count slowly. 1, 2, 3. Nothing would happen. The offers were all still there, sitting peacefully on the screen. Then he'd say, 5, and hit the button. Instantly, all hell would break loose. The offers would evaporate. The price would jump. It was as if the market knew what he was about to do, before he even did it. He turned to the bewildered tech guys behind him. "You see," he said, "I'm the event. I am the news." This was Brad's problem. The world as it appeared on his screen was an illusion. And this illusion was costing his bank, and by extension, its clients, tens of millions of dollars. He was a trader who couldn't trade. He was a man who had trusted the system his whole life, and for the first time, he realized the system might be rigged. He had no idea how. He just knew something was fundamentally broken. The world of Wall Street was changing faster than anyone, even the people inside it, could comprehend. The old picture of the stock market, of men in colorful jackets shouting in a trading pit, was dead. Since about 2007, the market had moved. It no longer lived on Wall Street. It lived inside black boxes, in heavily guarded data centers in New Jersey. And inside those black boxes, a new kind of war was being fought. A war measured in microseconds, millionths of a second. This was the era of high-frequency trading, or HFT. Think of it like this. High-frequency traders are firms that use incredibly powerful computers and lightning-fast connections to make millions of trades every single day. They aren't investing in companies they believe in. They're exploiting tiny, fleeting differences in price, holding stocks for mere fractions of a second. Their entire business model is built on one thing and one thing only: speed. If they are faster than everyone else, even by a nanosecond, they win. If they're second, they lose. Brad didn't know much about HFT at first. He'd never even heard of the biggest firms, like Getco, which at the time was responsible for 10% of the entire U.S. stock market. How could a firm be that big, and he, a head trader on Wall Street, had never heard of it? He started asking questions, but no one had any real answers. The people who sold the trading technology were just salesmen. They didn't understand how it worked. And the programmers who built it, the guys they called the Golden Goose, were hidden away, and when he did manage to talk to them, they treated him like he was an idiot. Brad's frustration grew. The problem was getting worse, and it wasn't just him. He took a trip to visit a friend at a legendary hedge fund, SAC Capital. He watched his friend trade using the most sophisticated technology from Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. And he saw the exact same thing happening. His friend would hit a button to buy, and the market would move away from him. That's when the light bulb went off. This wasn't just Brad's problem. It was the market's problem. He realized, with a chill, the markets are rigged. He didn't know how, but he knew the answer was buried somewhere deep inside the technology. And so Brad Katsuyama, the RBC nice guy who just wanted things to be fair, decided he had to go beneath the surface. To do that, he needed a team. He needed a translator, someone who could speak the language of computers and turn it into human language he could understand. He found that translator in a fellow Canadian named Rob Park. Rob was a programming legend at RBC. He had this amazing ability to take a trader's thought process, the intuition, the strategy, and turn it into computer code. Brad and Rob set out on a mission to conduct a series of science experiments in the U.S. Stock market. Their goal wasn't to make money, but to lose it, up to $10,000 a day, just to figure out what was going on. Their first theory was that some exchanges were allowing phantom orders, that the offers on the screen weren't all real. But when they sent an order to just one exchange at a time, everything worked perfectly. They were able to buy every share they saw. The illusion only appeared when they tried to buy from all the exchanges at once. It made no sense. Why would the market be real in one place, but an illusion when you looked at all places? Then, one morning in the shower, Rob had an epiphany. He was visualizing a chart that showed how long it took their orders to travel from their office in New York to the various exchanges in New Jersey. The travel times were different. The BATS exchange in Weehawken was only 2 milliseconds away. The NASDAQ exchange in Carteret was 4 milliseconds away. The difference was just a couple of milliseconds. A thousandth of a second. It seemed absurd that such a tiny sliver of time could matter. But Rob had a wild idea. I think it's because we're not arriving at the same time. What if someone was seeing their order hit the first exchange, the closest one, and then using that information to race ahead of them to all the other exchanges? It was a form of electronic front-running. Imagine you want to buy 10,000 shares of Apple. The shares are available across 10 different exchanges. Your order goes out like a wave. But because the exchanges are in different physical locations, the wave hits the closest exchange first. A high-frequency trader has a computer sitting right next to that first exchange. It sees your order for just 1,000 shares hit. Instantly, it knows a big buyer is in the market. Its algorithm then fires off orders at the speed of light, buying up all the Apple shares on the other 9 exchanges. By the time the rest of your order arrives at those other exchanges, a few milliseconds later, the shares are gone. And the high-frequency trader is now there, ready to sell them back to you at a slightly higher price. They're scalping you for pennies on every share. But when you're buying millions of shares, and this is happening on every single trade, all day, every day, it adds up to billions of dollars. To test this theory, Rob and his team did something completely counterintuitive. In a world obsessed with speed, they decided to slow down. They wrote a program that would deliberately delay their orders to the closer exchanges, so that all their orders would arrive at all 13 exchanges at the exact same moment. They sat down at the screen. The programmer, Alan Zhang, wasn't legally allowed to trade, so Rob hit the button. For years, their screens had been lighting up red for failed trades or brown for partial fills. This time, the screen lit up green. And green again. And again. They had done it. It worked. Rob ran to Brad's desk. It fucking worked. Brad paused for a moment, letting the magnitude of the discovery sink in. Then he asked the question that would change all of their lives. Now what do we do? They had a choice. They could have used this knowledge to make a fortune. They could have created their own system to play the same game, only better. But that wasn't who Brad was. He said, "We have to go on an educational campaign." They gave their new tool a name. A trader shouted it out one day, "Dude, you should just call it Thor, the hammer." The name stuck. Thor was their weapon, a way to protect investors from the predators lurking in the market. Brad now needed another key member for his team. He needed someone who understood the physical world of this speed war. The pipes, the cables, the servers. He needed a boxes and lines guy. That's how he found Ronan Ryan. Ronan was everything Brad wasn't. He was an Irish immigrant from Dublin, scrappy, funny, and relentlessly direct. He'd spent years working in telecom, selling high-speed connections to Wall Street firms. He didn't know a bid from an offer, but he knew exactly how information traveled. He was the guy the high-frequency traders called when they needed to shave a few microseconds off their connection time. Ronan had seen the secret world of HFT from the inside. He'd seen traders willing to pay millions to move their computer server a few feet closer to an exchange's matching engine. He'd seen them wrap their servers in wire gauze so competitors couldn't see the blinking lights of their new, faster hardware. He'd even seen them leave the old Toys R Us logo on a computer cage they'd acquired, just to hide the fact that they now had the best physical location in the building. They were, as Ronan put it, paranoid. But they were right to be. As soon as one firm found a new switch that was 3 microseconds faster, 2 weeks later, everyone else had the same switch. Ronan felt like the getaway driver in a bank robbery. "Drive faster! Drive faster!" they'd yell. He knew they were making incredible amounts of money, but he never knew exactly how. He just knew it had to do with speed. When Brad hired Ronan, he brought with him a set of secret maps. Maps showing the fiber-optic networks crisscrossing New Jersey, the ones laid by the big telecom companies. Unrolling them on a table, Ronan explained to Brad's team why their orders had always hit the BATS exchange first. "It's right outside the freaking tunnel," he said. The signal from their office in Manhattan traveled up the West Side Highway, through the Lincoln Tunnel, and the very first place it could land was Weehawken, New Jersey, home of the BATS exchange. BATS, it turned out, had been created by high-frequency traders. They had built an exchange at the perfect digital ambush point. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together. But it was John Schwall, a quiet, obsessive product manager on Brad's team, who uncovered the origin of the whole mess. Schwall was the kind of guy who, once he got his teeth into a problem, would not let go. He disappeared for several days and buried himself in the library, tracing the history of Wall Street regulations. He discovered that the chaos was born from a well-intentioned rule passed in 2005 called Regulation NMS. The rule was meant to ensure investors always got the best price by forcing brokers to route orders to whichever exchange was showing that price. But it created a giant loophole. The official price feed that most people saw, called the SIP, was slow. High-frequency traders could pay for private direct feeds from the exchanges that were much, much faster. This created two versions of the market, a slow one for the public, and a fast one for a small group of insiders. The HFT firms could see the price change in the fast market and then race to pick off the stale, outdated orders sitting in the slow market. It was a license to print money, sanctioned by the government's own rules. And the rabbit hole went deeper. The team discovered the existence of dozens of dark pools. These are private stock exchanges, run by the big Wall Street banks like Goldman Sachs and Credit Suisse. They were called dark because what happened inside them was hidden from the public. The banks told their biggest clients, like pension funds and mutual funds, that dark pools were safe places to trade large blocks of stock without tipping off the market. But it was a lie. Through more detective work, Schwall discovered that the banks were secretly selling access to their dark pools to the very same high-frequency traders they claimed to be protecting investors from. An investor's big order inside a dark pool was, as Brad put it, fat and juicy prey. It was slow, predictable, and trapped. A high-frequency trader could ping the pool with tiny orders to sniff it out, then use that information to trade against it, either inside the pool or on the public exchanges. The banks, the supposed guardians of their clients' interests, were selling the keys to the castle to the invaders. Brad and his team were now going to the biggest investors in the world, firms that managed trillions of dollars of ordinary people's retirement savings, and explaining all of this. For the first time, these powerful investors were hearing the truth about how the market really worked. Their jaws would hit the floor. One legendary investor, after hearing their presentation, said to them, "Your biggest competitive advantage is that you don't want to fuck me." But even with the truth on their side, and with a powerful tool like Thor, Brad realized it wasn't enough. The system was too entrenched. The big banks were making too much money from the kickbacks and fees paid by the exchanges and HFT firms. They weren't going to change. The only way to fix the game was to stop playing it. One day, in a meeting, Rob Park had an idea. What if they licensed Thor to one of the exchanges? Brad's response was immediate. "Screw that," he said. "Let's just create our own stock exchange." The room went silent. Create your own stock exchange. What did that even mean? It was an audacious, almost insane idea. But it was the only idea that made sense. If you wanted a fair market, you had to build one. So that's what Brad decided to do. He walked away from his secure, multi-million-dollar-a-year job at RBC. He took nothing with him, no code, no contacts, just the trust he had earned. He gathered his small band of rebels, Ronan, Rob, Schwal, and a few others. And they set out to do the impossible. They called their new exchange EX, the Investors Exchange. Their mission was simple: create a market where every investor, big or small, had the same chance. To do that, they had to eliminate the unfair advantages of speed. And they came up with a brilliantly simple solution. They created what Ronan called a magic shoebox. It was a 38-mile coil of fiber-optic cable, literally bundled up in a box. Every single order sent to EX, whether from a high-frequency trader or a regular investor, would have to travel through this coil. This created a tiny, 350 microsecond delay, a speed bump. It was just long enough to neutralize the advantages of the fastest traders. It meant that no one could see an order arrive at EX and then race to another exchange to front-run it. EX's own computer would always get there first, protecting the order. They stripped away all the complexity that predators used to hide. They eliminated the kickbacks and rebates. They only allowed a few simple, easy-to-understand order types. They made their rulebook public for everyone to see. For the first time, an exchange was designed not for the intermediaries, but for the actual investors. When they launched EX in October 2013, the resistance from the rest of Wall Street was immediate and fierce. The big banks, who controlled the flow of most trades, were suddenly very reluctant to connect. They spread rumors that EX was slow, that it was bad for clients. They would tell their clients they were sending trades to EX, but the data showed they weren't. But Brad and his team had an ally, the truth. And they had the trust of the biggest investors in the world, who were now watching closely. The turning point came on a cold afternoon in December 2013. For 51 minutes, Goldman Sachs, the most powerful firm on Wall Street, flipped a switch. After months of their own internal soul-searching, they decided to give EX an honest shot. They began routing a huge volume of their customers' orders to the new exchange. The screens inside EX's small office went crazy. In under an hour, they traded more than they had in entire days. It was a flood. The team popped a bottle of champagne. They had proven their concept. They had shown that if you build a fair market, the orders will come. And this brings us back to that secret trench across Pennsylvania. That straight line of fiber was built by a man named Dan Spivey. He was one of the first to truly understand that in the new market, the shortest distance between 2 points wasn't just a geometric principle, it was a business model worth billions. But technology is a relentless arms race. Just as Spivey's fiber-optic cable was the pinnacle of speed, a new technology was already emerging: microwave towers. Sending signals through the air is faster than sending them through glass fiber. So now, perched on the same mountains that Spivey's line tunneled under, is a chain of microwave towers, carrying the same information even faster. The war for speed never ends. But what Brad Katsuyama and his team of Flash Boys realized was that you don't have to win the war for speed. You can choose not to fight it. You can build a place where speed doesn't matter. A place where the game isn't about who is fastest, but about who has the best ideas. A place where the market is, once again, fair. Their fight isn't over. But they started a revolution. An army of one, as Ronan said, that grew into a small band of believers who proved that even in the belly of the beast, a few good people can still make a difference. Commentary. When you finish a book like Flash Boys, it's easy to feel a little cynical about the world. To think that the game is rigged, the powerful always win, and there's nothing we can do about it. But I think that's the wrong lesson to take away. The real story here isn't about the corruption, it's about the courage to confront it. The central lesson of Flash Boys is about the incredible power of asking a simple question: why? Brad Katsuyama wasn't a crusader. He wasn't trying to change the world. He was just a guy who was good at his job and noticed that something wasn't working the way it was supposed to. And when he was told to ignore it, when he was told it was his fault, when he was told it was just the way things were, he refused to accept it. He just kept asking, why? That simple act of curiosity, of refusing to accept a reality that didn't make sense, is what sparked a revolution. It's a powerful reminder for all of us, especially when you're young and just starting to make your way in the world. You will encounter systems, in school, in business, in life, that seem broken or unfair. Most people will just shrug and accept them. But the ones who make a difference are the ones who have the courage to ask why, and to keep asking until they get a real answer. Another powerful lesson is about the nature of a team. Brad was the leader, but he couldn't have done it alone. He knew what he didn't know. He needed Rob Park to translate the digital world, Ronan Ryan to explain the physical world, and John Schwal to uncover the historical world. They were a team of specialists, united not by a desire to get rich, but by a shared belief in fairness and a commitment to solving a puzzle that no one else could. It's a beautiful model for how to approach any big challenge. Find people who are smarter than you in different ways, and unite around a mission that is bigger than any one of you. So, how can you apply these lessons in your own life, starting today? First, cultivate your curiosity. The next time you encounter something that feels wrong or just doesn't add up, don't dismiss that feeling. Lean into it. Do what Brad did, run a small experiment. Do what Schwal did, go to the library. Ask questions. The world is full of hidden rules and broken systems, and the only way to navigate them, or to fix them, is to first understand them. Second, think about incentives. This is a thread that runs through all of Michael Lewis's work. The reason the market became rigged wasn't because everyone on Wall Street was an evil person. It was because the incentives, the kickbacks from exchanges, the profits from dark pools, the bonuses tied to short-term gains, all pointed in the wrong direction. If you want to understand why people behave the way they do, don't just listen to what they say. Look at what they are paid to do. Understanding incentives is like having a superpower for understanding the world. And finally, don't be afraid to choose a different game. The high-frequency traders were obsessed with winning the game of speed. Brad and his team realized that was a game they could never win, and a game that wasn't worth winning in the first place. So they created a new one, the game of fairness. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to refuse to play by the established rules and to create your own. It takes courage, but as the story of EX shows, it is possible. That was our journey through Flash Boys by Michael Lewis. We've explored the secret tunnels and hidden rooms of Wall Street today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only be a map of the territory. The real adventure happens when you walk the path yourself. Michael Lewis is such a masterful writer that the true joy is in the details, the characters, the dialogue, the feeling of being right there in the room as these discoveries unfold. This summary is designed to help you see if this book is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about has sparked your curiosity or stirred something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning how the market works, it's about experiencing a true story that will restore your faith in the power of a few determined individuals. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable on your own journey of growth, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Thank you for joining me, and let's keep growing together.